Okay. All right. Emily, I see your hand up and I'd love to call on you. Hopefully there's just one Emily here. So Emily, if you want to unmute yourself, sister, that would be great. Good job. You did it. Hi.
Well, hi. Hi. Well, at first I thought I would just take the easy road and ask for a mini reading. And as we've been sitting here, I feel like there's a question floating out there and I'm not quite sure how to say it, but I guess um I'm gonna like start to tear up.
You're doing great.
Um I have been always sort of felt like I take opportunities that are presented to me in my life rather than creating opportunities. And so I've been going through this journey recently of just really trying to understand myself and connect with myself. And so I'm just really curious if there's anything that my team would like to let me know.
Oh, of course. Oh, and I love that you let yourself be vulnerable right there. I feel like you're so strong for so many people and you really let yourself receive, kind of like we were talking about with Crystal earlier. So just want to give you a big hand at that part, sister. Okay. Okay, let me let your team share here. Oh, we love you. There's a big part of you that you have a lot of patterns that you've created, which are beautiful and lovable and very angelic, which is it's almost like let the world determine what I need to be as Emily, and I'll just say yes to those things. And then maybe the things that I would want to create or I'd want to set in motion don't matter as much as these other opportunities or other requests that the world is making of me. And then now at this season of your Emily, there's a part of you feeling like, but am I ever going to get to the stuff that maybe the world isn't going to ask me for or isn't going to, put in front of me, but I want to try it out. I want to offer that. I want to be that. I want to share that. And it's a beautiful question and your timing is perfect. Okay. So what we would like to say about this is that it doesn't have to be an either or. There can be the ways that you enjoy being of service and playing the other roles that you play, and that it may just be more about carving out more of your literal energy and making more time as your Emily for the things that the world doesn't know to ask you to do, but you really kind of wish it would maybe, and that you carve out and make some time to explore and experiment with creating that version of Emily. Okay. Now I feel your mind, your very strong mind saying, but what would that look like? What does that mean? Right? Is that true?
Yes.
It happens to
Yeah.
all of us with
I
those
place
crazy
a lot
minds.
of rules on myself and I
Okay.
tend to get lost, kind
Yeah.
of wound around the axle in my
Yeah,
thought.
exactly. And let me just point out a trick to you. And I'm asking for your team's confirmation that they want me to talk about this. They're like, yes, go ahead. This is perfect. Okay. Our minds are designed so well for so many things. But the minute that we have like a grand idea of, oh, I want to do this, or I want to be that, or what if I could try this out, the mind starts to like insert itself like, oh, well, I can help with that. Well, do you know what you want to do? Do you know what it looks like? You got to know the plan. You know what I mean? And it's just like our minds are asking us something that we can't answer. So it stops all of the creative energy because it's almost like the rude overbearing adult sibling or something that's like, well, you can't just go to the show unless you know what you're going to do. It's so weird. It's a weird dynamic, but it just stops everything in its track. And then the mind starts to overthink everything as if you have to know all of these answers and have all of these details and so forth. And that's not how creativity works. So I want to give you a bypass. Okay. So the mind is acting, and I love this very accessible analogy. It's like if you were going into your kitchen or wherever you prepare food and you're about to make lunch, and your mind's like, well, I need to taste it first. And you're like, we haven't made it yet. I mean, what are you going to taste? What are you doing? Right? So it's silly, right? But see, in that situation, we know that we would call bullshit on the mind doing that. But in all these other things, it's basically doing the exact same thing. And we don't recognize to call bullshit on it. Okay. So the mind won't like it, but the appropriate inner response to that sort of inner voice or inner sensation of, well, what would that look like? What does lunch taste like? Because we can't just go in there and make lunch. You know what I mean? You're creating another version of Emily. You're creating it not opposed to other layers, in addition to all the other layers that you are as Emily. You're making new layers, and you won't know what she is until you experiment and explore. And your mind, any of us that have minds that are wanting to minimize risk and it won't like this part, there's a lot of trial and error with creating new versions, new iterations, new layers of ourselves. There's no guarantees how it will go. There's no guarantees how others will respond or how the world will ignore or be delighted. But there's trial and error, so therefore there is risk involved because there's no guarantees. But the freedom to create is what I feel your team really encouraging you to give energy for, and to notice. You can't ask your mind to not get in the way, because the mind is the mind, and some of us have very busy minds, but you can respond accordingly to that sort of bully older sibling kind of energy of like. So my brain does this, just to be clear, all the time, even for this show. My team was like, oh, this is going to be great, have fun, make space for everybody to ask their questions, be lighthearted, Jill, share our love with them, and let them feel seen and heard and answered and fulfilled and inspired even, etc. And my brain's like, we don't even know what we're going to talk about. She's got these props. She doesn't know what she's doing. She doesn't have a plan. Right? So I'm here anyway. And my brain is still like, are we even going to use these props? Are these ridiculous? Right? So I know those mental layers of ourselves, and they're great for a lot of things. And they're also significantly ill-equipped for other layers of this. But Emily, there's no rush. There's no timeline. I do feel a sense of desire, and I hope that your brain doesn't try to convince you that that's a sense of urgency, because there is more than enough time for you to. As long as you're here as your Emily, there will be endless ideas that you have of things you want to try. And what if there's no wrong answer? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. What does that prompt in you? I'm curious what you're feeling right now.
No, I think that's certainly helpful. I do, I struggle with the like almost a feeling of regret for not having to like come to this point in my spirit sooner. Like I have to like brush away thoughts of like wasted time, or what I perceive as wasted time, and just like keep telling myself that it's part of the journey and that I have plenty of time left. And I think there is that sense of urgency. I do have a desire to like express more creativity and be free in that way. There is a little bit of fear. I think there's a fear of, am I doing the right thing? Yeah. Am I taking the right path?
Yeah. So you wanted to listen again to what we were just sharing there, because I think it answers and addresses each of those points, which makes me very happy that your team knew what to talk about there. And the other part, so I love that they address there's no urgency, right? And in terms of like, oh, I should have been there before, etc. Yeah, I feel your team's just love and respect for every iteration and every timeline of you as Emily. So please don't, that's definitely not coming from your team in terms of like, oh, well, it took you long enough. There's none of that energy from your team at all. You guys, our teams appreciate so much that we have tremendous amount of choice in this reality. Even though some of us feel like we have no choice, we probably have more choice than we even want to consider at times about who and what we are, and what we offer, and what we say yes to, what we offer as ourselves. What you are as Emily in the world is so much up to you. What I am as Jill in this world is so much up to me. That should be more than enough to keep us busy. And yet a lot of us find all these other distractions rather than feel as, I want to say, as inspired by that freedom that we have, or some of us get distracted because we don't want that responsibility. So we keep looking elsewhere for things that the world is asking us to do, as if we have no say in the matter and who and what we are, even in those situations. Okay. So we've never looked at you, Emily, as anything less than a spiritual being, right? You can be, I mean, someone I know when I was in corporate, I was, even though I wasn't consciously aware of being very soulful. I always wanted to, leave even a cubicle better than when I found it, cleaner than when I found it. I wanted to do my best in projects. I wanted to do a great job for my bosses and for the company I worked for. Those are very godly attributes, if you really think about it. So even though I may not have been spiritual, quote unquote, I was very much, I think, proud in a lot of ways of who and what I was choosing to be as my Jill, even in a purely corporate environment, not knowing any of this stuff. So nothing can get in the way of the light that you are. No role is unspiritual. No job is unspiritual. The spiritual component isn't the job. It isn't the role. It's you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. That just
Takes
is,
pressure off
I
too.
don't know, that just like, that's so powerful and just so, yeah, I think I just needed to hear like, just create, just, it's okay.
Create the Emily that you want to be in all the roles that you play, right?
Yeah.
And that doesn't have to be, any caricature of spirituality, right? It can be your version of it, because when you recognize really that you are the light of your team, you're the Emily of your team, we can't not be that light.
Yeah.
There's so this whole thing about, well, that's not a spiritual, some people say, well, that's not a spiritual job, so I had to leave my law practice. Still, it's not spiritual enough. And like, you help people every day. How is that not spiritual in matters that they don't know themselves, they don't have the training that one does as an attorney? So how is that ungodly exactly? Right? So there's a lot of really um, over engineered ideas about what is high vibe and what isn't, and what is spiritual and what isn't, as if our teams are like, God, I got to get her out of that law job. She's still an attorney. Can you believe it? It's like, no, that's not, no, 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 no. That's a false impression that is available to us here and sounds so convincing, because it's like, yes, that's true. I have felt stuck in my job. It's like, no, that's because we weren't letting the light into our life, no matter what we were doing. The problem isn't the job. The problem is us blocking these source energy layers from everything that we are and everything that we do in the world. Oh, Emily, you are lit up, sister. I just feel this huge ball of light within you, just going, yes, yes.
Well, and I just real quickly, because I know you want to get on to other people, but
Great
I
question.
shed some, I'm a home organizer. I help people declutter and clear out extra things from their life. And I've, always kind of kept myself very busy. And recently I've made some really tough decisions to let some clutter out of my schedule. And I feel like there's that fear of like, am I doing the right thing? But also just this overwhelming, I think part of why I was crying before I even started speaking was because I'm excited. There's just been this like huge weight lifted off my shoulder, and I'm, just feel like I'm just starting my journey to like really create myself, and that's it. I feel it very powerfully. So I'm excited, and I'm excited.
Beautiful. And one tip related to that, and I hear doves in the background. Are you like in Hawaii or somewhere?
Nope.
Yeah.
Nope, I'm in Minnesota.
Oh, okay. I hear these doves cooing. That reminds me of Hawaii. That's interesting. Okay. I love those doves, though. Maybe it's just in your aura. But this sense of kind of a bold move about like cutting something out of your life or cutting something out of your schedule, a low risk move would be to try it on literally a trial basis. That you give yourself maybe 2 weeks or 2 months, and if it involves another person, that you're saying, I'm doing a test run. where, I'm going to do that. If you need to know, if anyone needs to be notified, right? And then just see how it goes. Does it free you up? Or does it make you feel, is it not what you thought it would be? Okay.
Right.
So doing it as a trial run versus because I feel like part of your system is very much, no, I need to make decisions. I can't string people along, et cetera. And I feel like there's some individuals or some projects that would be fine if you sort of strung them along while you're doing a 2-week or 2-month kind of test run of another way that you're managing your schedule and managing your life.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool. Thank you very much.
Yeah, you're so welcome. Great to talk with you, Emily. I love your question, by the way. And I'm a home organizer client kind of person. you should see my piles. All right. Love you, Emily. Thank you. Okay, very good. I think she muted. Okay, you guys are so good at this. All right, let's do Renee next.